In the heart of Lagos Island, where the rich roll in convoys and the poor hustle with dignity, a prince stripped away his crown, not to lose his identity, but to find something that money could never buy: true love. Prince Obinna Chuka Nwokedi. Thread was born into opulence. From the moment he took his first breath in the grand palace of Umuagu Kingdom in Anambra State, his path was paved with gold. As the only son of Obieze Chuka Nwokedi II, Obinna's future had already been decided. He was to inherit his father's legacy, a sprawling empire that spanned real estate, oil ventures, international trade, and traditional authority. His life was scripted in the ink of luxury, legacy, and lineage, yet for all the grandeur surrounding him, Obinna felt imprisoned. Each day in the palace brought with it protocol and pageantry, maids who never met his eyes, relatives who bowed instead of speaking, and young women who giggled more at his title than his jokes. Even his closest circle of friends consisted of sons of governors, oil tycoons, and ministers, people who mirrored his wealth but not his soul. By the age of 31, Obinna had grown weary. He had traveled the world, studied at Oxford, and attended charity balls in Dubai, Paris, and Johannesburg. But his heart remained untouched. Every relationship he ventured into ended with the same realization: they loved the crown, not the man. One evening, as the golden sun dipped behind the Niue hills, casting a warm glow over the palace grounds, Obinna stood on his private balcony, staring into the horizon. He felt a burning question rise within him: will I ever be loved for who I truly am? The idea came to him unexpectedly, a radical thought that first started as a whisper, but soon became a roaring plan. What if he shed the title, the prestige, and the privilege? What if he walked among ordinary people, not as a prince, but as a man? Obieze, his father, was furious when Obinna told him his intentions. "Do you want to bring disgrace to this throne?" the Obi thundered. "Our enemies would say the prince is mad." "I want to find someone who loves me, not my inheritance," Obinna replied calmly. "Someone who won't bow before me because of my name, but will stand beside me because of my heart." His mother, Queen Adana, though worried, understood her son. "You were born a king, Obinna, but I pray you find someone who loves your soul, not your seat." And so, against the wishes of the council, Obinna left the palace quietly, under the cover of night. He relocated to Lagos under the alias Obinna, armed with nothing but a faded backpack, some cash, and a plan to reinvent himself. He found a shared room in a crowded Yaba apartment complex where the walls were thin and the power supply thinner. His new life began in the humblest of places. By day, he rode a delivery bike for a local logistics company called SwiftLink Express. He wore torn jeans, fake Air Jordans, and a grey polo shirt with the company's faded logo. By night, he wrote in a secret journal, recording the highs and lows of his double life. It wasn't easy. He got drenched in Lagos rainstorms, screamed at by angry customers, and nearly robbed by Agberos in Mushin. But for the first time in his life, he felt real. Every naira he earned came from sweat, not from titles. People called him Obi the Dispatcher. No one asked about his surname. No one bowed. No one cared. It was perfect. Until he met Amara. Amara was a hard-working fashion designer in Surulere. She ran a modest shop with her younger sister Kamsi and juggled university classes in the evenings at Unilag. Her life was a balancing act between ambition and survival. Every kobo she earned went into fabrics, rent, and tuition. She didn't have time for fairy tales, only goals. One rainy Tuesday afternoon, thunder rumbled over Lagos like an angry god. Traffic snarled across the city, and power flickered out in most neighborhoods. Amara was inside her tiny fashion studio, struggling with a faulty sewing machine, when a knock sounded at the door. It was Obi, drenched to the bone, clutching a large plastic-wrapped parcel. "Swift link delivery," he said, voice low and exhausted. Amara took the parcel and paused. Something in his eyes, sincere, tired, quietly defiant, made her hesitate. Most people would just wave him away, but something pulled at her compassion. "You're soaked," she said. "Wait, let me get you a towel." Before Obi could protest, she disappeared into the back and returned with a faded wrapper and a clean t-shirt. "You'll catch a cold like this," she said, offering him the items. "And wait, are you hungry?" Obi stared at her, unsure how to respond. It had been months since anyone showed him this kind of unfiltered kindness. She didn't ask who he was or why someone like him was delivering fabrics in the rain. She saw him, not the palace. She warmed up leftover akara and papa for him, and they sat on opposite ends of her sewing bench. They talked, just a little at first. Weather, Lagos traffic, her love for Ankara patterns. She smiled easily, laughed freely, and looked him in the eye. Not once did she ask about money. For the next few weeks, Obi found reasons to deliver to her shop. Sometimes it was real work. Other times he simply swapped packages with colleagues to take her address. Each visit unraveled a little more of who she was and who he was becoming. They began to joke, to talk, to share. Amara told him about losing her parents young, about raising Kamsi like a daughter, about wanting to open a proper boutique one day. Obi listened, mesmerized. In her voice he heard strength, in her eyes he saw fire. They started taking late walks after her shop closed. Obi, still in his dispatcher clothes, and Amara in her simple gown, strolled through the rain-slicked streets of Surulere. They talked about dreams, fears, childhood memories. One night she asked, "Why do you always look like you're carrying a secret?" Obi froze, then smiled. "Maybe I'm just a complicated man," she chuckled. "Aren't we all?" As weeks turned into months, friendship became something more. Laughter turned into longing. Connection turned into affection. But Obi kept his identity hidden. He was terrified. What if the truth shattered everything? What if she felt betrayed? What if she joined the others, those who saw the crown, not the man? Still, with every passing day, the truth pressed harder against the walls of his heart, because for the first time in his life he was falling in love. The truth had a weight, and Obi had carried it for too long. It gnawed at him, especially as his feelings for Amara deepened. Then came the week that would change everything. Amara was devastated. Her landlord had raised her rent unexpectedly, and without mercy. She had 7 days to pay or vacate. She tried everything, calling friends, begging for more orders, even skipping meals to scrape together funds. Nothing worked. When Obi learned of her situation, he felt an overwhelming urge to help. But he knew Amara. She was proud. If he simply gave her the money, she would never accept it, so he paid the rent anonymously. He posed as a silent investor, wiring the funds through a small firm that helped small business owners. He told the agent not to mention his name. All he wanted was for her to keep her shop, her dream. Amara was shocked. Grateful, but confused. "I don't know who did it," she told Obi later that week, "but may God bless whoever they are. They didn't even leave a name." Obi smiled faintly. "Maybe someone out there believes in your dream." A week later, Amara stopped by her favorite cafe after class. She expected to sip her usual Zobo blend and read fabric catalogues, but what she saw made her heart stop. A black SUV, polished like obsidian, parked right outside. From it stepped not Obi the dispatcher, but Prince Obinna Chuka Nwokedi III, dressed in regal traditional attire, surrounded by royal escorts in full ceremonial garb. Gasps filled the cafe. Amara nearly dropped her drink. Obi stepped toward her. The guard stayed back. He looked her in the eyes. Those same eyes that once stared at her, drenched in rain and torn jeans. "Amara," he said gently, "I didn't lie to you. I just needed to know if love could still exist without gold. Her world froze, tears welled in her eyes. Her voice trembled. You're a prince." He nodded. "I am, but I'd rather be your man than a king to anyone else." She was silent. The cafe was still. The city outside roared, but in that moment there was only the two of them. Amara stepped forward, slowly, carefully, and whispered, "Why didn't you tell me?" "I was afraid that I'd lose the only woman who ever saw me, truly saw me." Her tears spilled. She touched his face. "I saw you, Obi, and I loved you, even when I didn't know who you were." A long silence passed between them. Then she smiled. "So, Prince, would you like to take a walk with your queen?" And in that small Lagos cafe, royalty meant nothing. Love meant everything. Amara took her time. The revelation felt like a dream she wasn't ready to wake from. Her trust had been shaken, yes, but her heart kept returning to the man behind the mask. Not the prince, the friend. The man who had laughed at her dry jokes, walked her home in the rain, and saw her not just as a fashion designer, but as a queen in her own right. At first, she withdrew. She needed space. She needed truth. But Obi gave her time. No pressure, no titles, just sincerity. He visited her modest shop, still, in his ordinary clothes, and sat silently, mending a button or helping sort fabrics. He listened more than he spoke. He watched her eyes for signs of anger, then joy, then maybe forgiveness. Weeks passed, and in that time Amara saw not a prince, but a partner. Then one bright Saturday morning she sent him a message. "I'm ready." Obi came immediately. No convoy, no crown. She took his hand, held it tightly, and said, "I fell in love with a man named Obi. The rest is just decoration." They told her family. They told his palace. Shock rippled through both worlds. But love has its own rhythm, and it cares nothing for protocol. In a quiet ceremony, in the heart of Umuagu Kingdom, attended by villagers, elders, tailors, dispatchers, and kings, Prince Obinna Chuka Nwokedi III married Amara and Kemdilim Okoro, the woman who loved the man before she knew the crown. And as they danced under the stars that night, the royal drums echoed through the hills of Anambra, not just for a prince and his bride, but for love that had conquered pride, fear, and disguise. It was never about the gold. It was always about the heart. Thanks for watching. Please be kind enough to subscribe for more of this story and more. Take care.